Another big power issue we have to unpack. Experts say that Nersa's new methodology to determine electricity price hikes brings substantial risks. Nersa has published a consultation document detailing this new methodology, now inviting comment from stakeholders by the 29th of July. That final methodology, as they call it, will be published in September. Let's unpack this, joined by energy analyst Ted Blom. Ted, good to have you on eNCA as always. It's very early for me to be using the word methodology. Dumb it down for me. Are we going to pay more money? Is that what Nersa wants?
Absolutely. I think there's two things. There's a couple of things, in fact, if I may have 10 seconds of your time. Firstly, I mean, I'm totally gobsmacked that Nersa and Eskom came to an agreement over the court appeal that Nersa lodged against Eskom's previous effort to increase the price by 15%. That settlement was quietly done on the 6th of June in other words, last month. And I mean, the public has not been known in that matter. We're the stakeholders, and we are not involved in the court case, and we're also not even aware of the settlement until weeks after it's happened. So there's a lot of irregularities. Let me be bold. There are a lot of irregularities taking place between Eskom and Nersa over the last 3 years. Yes, Eskom wants to fill the holes that from several sources. Firstly, the corruption's ongoing to the tune of billions a year, and that hole needs to be filled. Secondly, of all the households that consume electricity, whether it's via municipality or via Eskom, only around 10% are actually paying. So 90% aren't paying. That hole needs to be filled. And then, of course, defaulting municipalities also is a couple of billion rand a year, and that hole needs to be filled. So yes, the only teeth that's available for Eskom to suck and Nersa to suck is the consumer's teeth. And I mean, it's grossly unfair, and it's in fact unconstitutional. If you go look at the Constitution and the Treasury note, you'll see that all increases of administered prices, water, the toll fees, electricity, etc., should not increase above the rate of inflation.
And it's well above inflation, isn't it? I want to talk about the solar issue. I'm sure you would have heard Tumza on that story a moment ago, Ted. But just before I move on to solar, you talk about these increases coming from every quarter of Nersa and Eskom. I suppose here's what's upsetting a lot of people. We're still paying for all the electricity, but blackouts, we haven't gotten all the electricity. And I wasn't able to get much sense from the COJ MMC for Finance yesterday. It's a complicated question, but can you just explain briefly why we're still paying the same when we don't have the power?
Well, it's just corruption. It's fraud under another name. The fact of the matter is your charges are divided into two. One is consumption-based charges, which nobody has a problem paying. If you use the power, then you must pay for it. The second part of the account, and it's usually about half of the account, is again, overhead fees, communication fees, accounting fees, connection fees, you name it. And that whole bunch of fees, as far as I'm concerned, are illegal. They have not been determined by Nersa. They have not been properly ventilated at public hearings. But these have crept in over the last 13, 14 years, and they increase at the same rate as what your consumption rate. I mean, if the price of coal goes up, it doesn't increase the wire cost between the pole and your house. I mean, that wire was amortized years and years ago, and there's no more additional. There should be no more additional costs other than a little bit of maintenance, which doesn't happen in any case. So no, I think the consumer's been ripped off left, right, and centre.
And solar energy users are about to get ripped off left, right and centre as well, aren't they? Because I was under the impression if you got solar, you were doing Eskom a favour. You came off the grid, you reduced the demand, and the rest of us who can't afford solar can keep our lights on. But now Eskom wants you to pay to use solar as well. It's starting to get a bit insulting, isn't it, Ted?
No, absolutely. Again, I mean, as far as your fixed costs are concerned, if the matter is challenged in court, you will get a pro-rata discount for the days that there was load shedding. In fact, my argument is you should get the whole day. If there's load shedding on a particular day, you shouldn't be paying any connection fees for that whole day. Secondly, as far as the solar fees are concerned, again, it's to fill a hole. And there's one municipality that I'm aware of. It's already bypassed the buck and has changed the name of the game, because the moment you call it electricity or power or something to that effect, it falls under the Electricity Regulation Act. This municipality has gone and looked who's got solar installations and added it to the rates and taxes for the properties, which is also illegal. So no, when you open your eyes, the consumer has been screwed left, right, and centre. Now I understand why Eskom wants to levy that extra cost, and they call it the connection cost, and that's just because they need more money. If you go off the grid, they're losing that money. Secondly, what hasn't been ventilated but has been very, very prominent overseas is the moment you go into something like grid type of power, Eskom and the powers that be will introduce time of day tariffs to everybody. And then you'll see the electricity charge per hour when it's peak time. If it's in an open market, as they're proposing now under the ISMO, you can see the charge go up from the current 145, R1.45 a kilowatt hour, to up to 30, 40, 50 Rand a kilowatt hour, depending on who's prepared to pay those mad tariffs at peak time. And that's been the bane of many, many people's problems in the UK and in Australia and a number of other, I think in some of the American states as well.
Yeah. Ted, I appreciate your time in speaking to us, always making sense of these very, very complicated methodologies that come out of Eskom and Nersa. Ted Blom, energy analyst, joining us here on eNCA. Don't go anywhere. 7 o'clock headline.